a senior high school student.
Hi, Lynn. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And so, and do we have other new students who want to introduce himself or herself? Okay. Some of them just want to observe. Okay. If you are new to Skype, you can use large grid. Large grid 大方格啊，如果你是没有用过 Skype 的话，你可以使用大方格 large grid。So Bridget, I don't think they know the topic you have been teaching over the past few weeks. So
Sure.
before we get started, could you tell them what's the topic all about? What's the topic is all about? Okay.
Sure. So, hi, for those who are new, welcome, and thank you for joining us. So, for the last few weeks, we have been talking about the topic of storytelling, and we have explored a few things about storytelling. So far, we have talked about what makes up a story. So, the foundations of a story, like setting, the characters, and plot. So we've talked a little bit about those things. The genre of a story. So things like when a story is funny, it's a comedy. Or there are mystery stories where we're trying to figure out a big question. Or horror stories where it's very scary. So those are some genres we were talking about as well. We started creating our own stories and we started looking at setting and how setting can be a big part of stories. And then last week, we ended talking about characters, different types of characters, such as our main character, which is usually the hero, or the villain of a story, which is usually causing lots of trouble or conflict for the characters, the hero, and other types of characters we see in a story. Today, we are going to start talking about plot. So we will explore this a bit more. Generally, the plot is what happens throughout the story. And we're going to dive in and find more about the plot today. Okay, so before I get started, does anyone have any questions or want to share anything about storytelling or have any questions about any piece of what I just said? No? Great, wonderful. All right, so let's get started. I'll share my screen with you all. And let's see here. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so today, again, we're talking about plot, all about plot and what makes a good story. Okay, so let's get started. So what is a plot? All right, so what happens in a plot? Okay, let's see. Barry, can you read the first section right here of what is plot?
A story is a series of events. A plot is a series of events that have cause and effect.
Good. So story and plot are kind of different. So story is just a series of events. Very simple. But a plot is a little bit more complicated, has a little bit more to it, okay? So like Barry said, it's a series of events, so things that happen that have cause and effect. So let's see what that means, okay? Ray, will you read our second sentence here?
Cause is something that makes another thing happen.
Yes, great, thank you. So a cause is something that makes another thing happen. So for example, if I have a ball in my hand and I throw the ball and I knock something over, I caused that something to fall over. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't throw the ball. So you cause something to happen. Okay, great. Thanks. Dylan, will you read the next sentence, please?
Effort is the result from something happening.
So effect is the result from something happening. So when I throw a ball and I knock something over, the effect is it fell over and maybe I broke it. So the effect is something fell and broke. And the cause was because I threw the ball. So this is a very simple example. All right, great. Cause and effect. Something happens and it makes something else happen. Great. Okay, very good. Esther, will you read this last sentence, please?
Plots are a planned way to keep the listener interested in a story.
Good. So everyone who is creating a story, maybe writing a book or writing a movie, creating any type of story that we hear or watch, their goal is they want to keep the person who's watching or listening interested. They want to, you don't want to come to a story, oh, I don't want to listen to this or I don't want to hear that. You want the audience or the reader to be interested and want to know what's going to happen next. That's why we love stories so much. We want to know what's going to happen, right? So plots are a way to get that person to keep listening or to keep reading, right? Okay, great. So let's find an example of what a plot is like versus just a story. All right, let's take a look here. So story versus plot. Okay, so let's look at these two stories here, and we're going to figure out which one is a story and which one it has a plot. Okay. Ryan, will you read this first sentence?
Ryan will be back in a minute.
Oh, okay, great. Let's see. Leo, will you read this?
What sentence?
This middle one right
Oh,
here.
the king died and then the queen died.
Great. Thank you, Leo. Nice job. And Lynn, will you read this sentence, please?
Okay. The king died from old age, and then the queen died because of grief.
Good. Okay, very good. So let's think. One is a story, which is just a series of events, things that happen. And the other, a plot, is something is caused and then there is an effect. So let's think. So raise your hand, and Luke, I might need your help with this. Raise your hand if you think the first one is the story, only a series of events.
你可以按那个 raise hand. All right. Lin, Sandy, Esther, Leo, Vivian. Oh, Dylan, Barry. Yes.
Okay, so I think that was most people. Okay, and let's see. Does anyone think the second one is the story? You can raise your hand.
Okay. No, no one.
Great job, everyone. So yes, you are correct. The first story or the first sentence is our story. So it is only things that happen, right? The king died and then the queen died. We don't know why. We don't know what happened next. We just know these two facts, okay? And then let's take a look here. The second sentence. The king died from old age, and then the queen died because of grief. So what caused the king to die? What caused the king to die? Let's see. Sandy, what do you think?
Because the king is too old.
Because the king is too old. Yes, that's what caused him to die. And Sandy, because he died, then what happened? What was the effect?
And then his wife died too.
And then his wife died too because of grief, because she was so sad. So she was affected by his death. So we have a cause and effect. That makes our plot. Very good. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about plot versus stories? All right. We'll continue. If you do, always let me know, okay? All right. So with that, let's take a look at our plot elements, okay? Oops. So in every story has this sort of design. Like we were saying, the plot is there's a plan to keep the readers interested, or listeners or watchers, depending on the form of the story, right? Because stories come in all different forms. Some are spoken, some are movies, some we watch, some we listen to, and some we read. They come in all different forms, but they all follow a very similar pattern, okay? So here we have a graph of sorts of what we call plot elements. Let's say that all together. Plot elements.
Plot
Elements.
Good. So plot elements are the things that make up a plot, right? All the different bits and pieces, which we'll talk about more. Okay. So at the start of our plot element right here, see how we have the start, and then this goes into the middle, and then our end. Okay. So at the start of the story is the introduction. Let's try that together. Introduction.
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 Good. Let's say it one more time. Introduction.
Introduction.
So you all might be familiar with this word. So in the introduction is when we are introduced or we learn about things that will happen. Let's hear more about introduction. Okay, so what happens in the introduction of the story? Again, at the very beginning, okay? Let's
I think you are muted. I don't know.
Oh, am I muted?
Now I can hear you. I
Oh,
think somebody accidentally muted you. So
no
please
worries.
do not mute the teacher.
Uh, okay, no worries. All right, so we're gonna find a bit more about the introduction, which again is right here, the very start of the story. It's the first element that happens in our story. And Lynn, can you tell me what the first bullet point says, please?
The intro character, introduce setting, shows key conflict that need to be resolved at the end of the story.
Great job. So the introduction introduces character. So we will usually meet our main character. I know Harry Potter is a common example we've been talking about. So we meet him right away. In Frozen, the movie Frozen, we meet Anna and Elsa right away. And it introduces the setting. So again, in the movie Frozen, we see where we are. We're in this beautiful city that the Anna and Elsa live in. In Harry Potter, we see that we are in England or Scotland, somewhere in the United Kingdom, right? So we see who we're going to meet, who we're following, and where we are. Okay? All right, wonderful. And then lastly, it shows a key conflict that needs to be resolved at the end of the story. So conflict is a problem that a character has. So it might show, in Frozen, for example, we see that Elsa's struggling with her powers and she doesn't know quite what to do with it. And that becomes a major conflict in the story because of the ice storm that it creates. So, and then that is part of what needs to be resolved or figured out by the end of the story. Okay, so these are all things that we see bits and pieces of, and we learn more about them throughout the story. Okay, so let's see an example of an introduction. Okay, let's see. Ray, will you read this, please?
Once upon a time, there was a girl named
And
Anne.
Anne who lived on a farm. Even though she did not have much money, she dreamed of seeing the world one day.
Great. Okay, and Esther, who is a character that is introduced in our story? Anne, great. And Dylan, what is the setting of this story? Where are we? We are on a farm. Very good. And Sandy, what might be the conflict in the story?
Anna didn't have much money.
Yes, right. She doesn't have much money, but she has dreams of going to see the world. So that is a conflict of, how is she going to do that? All right. Very good. Does anyone, have any questions so far about introductions? All right, well, let's see what happens next. The next part of our story, the rising action. Repeat after me. Rising action.
Rising
action.
Rising action.
Rising action.
action.
Wonderful. So rising means to go up. So when something rises, it goes up. Okay, and action is something that happens. All right, so let's take a look at what is the rising action in a plot. And again, that happens right after the introduction, right here, and you see that the story is going up. Things are happening. Okay. Leo, will you read this next part, please?
The rising action happens after an event, creates tension in the story, builds interest for an audience.
Great, wonderful job. So continuing with our example of Frozen. So we see that in Frozen, for example, I think there's a party and we're still introduced to Anna and Elsa and some of their party guests, other royalty. And then Elsa shows everyone she has powers, right? And oh no, that's our first tension of conflict. Oh gosh, what's going to happen next? And then from there, more and more things keep happening throughout the story. Elsa runs away and more things happen. Okay, Anna meets Kristoff and more things happen from there. And all these things build up and up and up throughout the story. And as things happen, we are more and more interested, wondering how the characters will figure out these problems, how things will be solved. Okay. All right, so let's find our friend Anne and see what the rising action is in our example here. Barry, will you read the first section, please?
One day a contest was announced. The person who grew the largest pumpkin will win a large cash prize.
Nice job. So this is our first event. Something that's happening is a contest is announced. Great. All right, wonderful. Is Ryan back yet?
Yes, I think so. Right?
Ryan, will you read the second paragraph if you're back with us?
This is my strength, and maybe if I work hard, I can grow the largest pumpkin and win the contest. Then I can go see the world.
Nice job. Thank you, Ryan. And Sandy, will you read the last paragraph, please?
So Anne began to work very hard. She planted the pumpkin seeds and began to watch her pumpkins grow.
Great. So this is an example of our rising action. All right. So there are a few events that begin to happen. She is very excited. You can tell there's a lot of energy. She is looking forward to being in this contest. So maybe she can win some money and she can also grow a pumpkin. Okay, nice job. All right. So the next element in our story is the climax. Let's say that together. Climax.
Climax.
Good. One more time. Climax.
Climax.
Good. So this is the part of the story, as we can see, it's at the most intense part, right? Usually something, the most intense or most exciting part of the story is the climax. It's the part of the story when you're the reader or if you're watching it, you might feel nervous or excited and you can't wait to see what's happening next. So the rising action builds towards this most exciting or intense part. Okay? All right, let's take a look to see more about climax. Esther, will you read this, please?
The most exciting, intense, or important part of the story affects the rest of the story, affects the characters.
Great job. So, depending on what happens in the climax can change the whole story, right? Maybe it's sad, tragic, maybe it's a happy thing, right? So, depending on what happens, it can change a lot in the story. All right, thank you, Esther. Okay. Lynn, will you read these first two sections, please?
One day it began to rain. Oh no, Anne said. I hope it does not rain too much. My pumpkins need sunlight too. Even though Anne wished this, it keeps raining.
All right. So at this point, we know that Anne is working very hard to grow these pumpkins. And as we might know, too much water or too much rain for anything you're growing in a garden isn't great for those things. So she's getting very worried. Uh-oh, she's worked so hard, but it keeps raining. What is she going to do? Okay, nice job. Thank you, Lynn. Leo, will you read the next two sections, please?
The next day brought more rain. The following days it continued to rain. There were moments where the rain passed, but the sun did not come out. What am I going to do?
Great. What am I going to do? Oh man, this is definitely the most stressed we've heard Anne be in our story. So there's this big problem, this big conflict. Barry, what is the big conflict for Anne?
It's too many rain.
Yes, it is raining too much. Yes, great. And is there, let's see, Ryan, what do you think she might do? Oops. Are you there, Ryan?
Oh, yes.
What do you think she might do with her problem?
Mm.
Let's see. Dylan, can you help out Ryan? Do you have any ideas?
喂，福老师，您稍等一下。
Let's see.
I don't know.
That's okay. Wow. It sounds like a tricky spot to be in, especially if you are counting on the weather to help you with your goal. Okay, so let's find out what's going to happen next. Okay, let's see. So the next element of the story happens after the climax. So we're at our most intense point. The most exciting thing is going on in the story. And then there's the falling action. Let's try that together. Falling action.
Falling action.
action.
Good. So falling is the opposite in a way of rising. So rising is to go up and falling is to go down. Okay, and as we can see on our chart here, rising's up to the climax, the most exciting part, and then falling is going to go down. So let's learn more about that. All right, so what is the falling action in a plot? Ray, will you read this, please?
The characters begin to solve conflicts. Any tension begins to relax.
Great. Thank you, Ray. So all the characters begin to solve any problems that they've been having. They might find some solutions. And again, because the climax is the most exciting or intense point, that emotion, that tension starts to go away. Okay? Nice job. All right, so we have Anne, our friend who has big dreams, but she is looking for money to explore her dreams, to go see the world. She has the pumpkin contest. She works really, really hard, and then it's raining and it won't stop raining, and she's getting a bit frustrated. So what will she do? Let's find out. All right. Let's see. Um, Sandy, will you read the first paragraph, please?
There had been many farmers in Anne's family. She was lucky to have her parents as a cross resource.
Great, thank you, Sandy. Ryan, will you read the second section, please?
Mom, Dad, and boys were worried. I need help. I am worried my pumpkins will drown from the rain. What do I do?
Thank you, Ryan. Nice job. And Esther, will you read the third section, please?
Yeah.
Instead looks at the sky. It will keep raining for a while, he said.
Nice job. Okay, so let's see. Leo, will you read the next section, please?
It is most important to harvest the pumpkins now. They might not be big enough, but at least they will survive.
All right, thank you, Leo. And Dylan, will you read this last paragraph, please?
And was able to save two pumpkins from the children. She took care of them in a dry place away from the rain.
Thank you, Dylan. Nice job. Okay, so a lot happened during our falling action, okay? So was the problem of the rain solved? Did it stop raining? Barry, did it stop raining?
No.
No, it didn't stop raining. So what did Anne do instead to solve her problem?
He uh, he took care two pumpkins in a dry place.
Right. She took the pumpkins and she and her with her and her parents, so she got some help and they figured, well, two smaller pumpkins are better than no pumpkins at all. So they were worried that if she kept the pumpkins out, that they might not survive from the rain. It was raining too much. But if she went and she harvested or picked the pumpkins, even though they were not as big as she wanted them to be, at least they would survive and she could still enter the contest, right? So she's starting to find some solutions and then we will find out what happens next. Nice job, everyone. Okay, so here we are now as things are starting to solve. We feel a little bit more, okay, she found some solutions. We feel a little bit better about it. Okay, nice job. All right, and now we are close to the end of our story down here. So we have the resolution. Let's try that. Repeat after me. Resolution.
Resolution.
Nice job. So let's take a look at that. Let's see. Ray, will you read the resolution, please?
All conflicts resolved. The journey has been completed.
Great job. So by the end of the resolution, which is also the end of our story, we know all of the conflicts, what happened. Maybe we like the resolution, maybe we don't, maybe it's good for our characters, maybe not. But either way, the journey or everything that happened in the story is over. Okay? So let's see what happened at the end of our friend Anne's story. Lynn, will you read the first two sections, please?
As the day of the contest drew near, another announcement was made.
Go ahead, keep going, Lynn.
Due to the bad weather, this year's pumpkin contest has been cancelled. In fairness, the prize money will be split among those who entered.
Nice job. Thank you, Lynn. Okay. Ryan, will you read the last section, please?
Anne was said the contest was cancelled. However, Anne was able to take her share of the prize money. She decided to save the money and work toward her dream of seeing the world. and was hopeful she would see it all one day. The end.
Nice job. So let's see. Sandy, how was the Anne's first problem resolved?
He- uh, he, she didn't, uh, oh, she didn't need to join the contest.
So yes, so her first, let's think back. So her first conflict or problem was she wanted to go travel, but she didn't have money.
Oh,
What did she start doing to help her with that?
She's, she want to save the money.
Yes, great. So she started saving the money. Good. And with our conflict of the rain, let's see, Esther, how did the conflict of the rain get resolved? What happened to the contest because of the weather?
Cancelled.
Yes, it was canceled. So Anne worked really hard to find a solution, and then the contest ended up being canceled. So something else happened instead. Okay, so that's how the story ends. So we know everything, every part of the story that we'd heard. It has some sort of ending. We know that there's bad weather, so we can guess or think maybe it's still raining. We know what happened at the end with the contest, which is all the money of all those who entered was split. And we know what Anne decided to do and that she's been saving money and to plan to see the world one day. Okay. Great job, everyone. So that's our resolution here. And if we look back at our chart, start, middle, end, we had our introduction, our rising action, the most intense part, the climax, falling action, things started getting solved, and then by the end, everything has been solved. Okay. Okay, does anyone have any questions about our plot elements? No questions? Okay. Well, let's take a look at another story. And we're just gonna watch it one time and just enjoy the story at first. We'll watch this at least once tonight, and then we'll continue talking about it our next class too, okay? So I'm going to bring back my screen so I can share another screen with you. Okay. One moment. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
All right. And I shared my sound as well, but if you can't hear it, just let me know, all right? So let's watch this. Enjoy. Let me bring my screen back. Okay. So raise your hand if you enjoyed this story. It's called Snack Attack. You can raise your hand if you enjoyed it. All right, great, wonderful. Oh, wonderful, so many people. I love it. Okay, so also raise your hand, or hold on, let me ask it this way. How did you feel at the start of the story? You know, when the old woman, she was in the train station, she got her cookies. How did you feel? Barry, how did you feel?
Start I feel funny because the old man is do something very fun.
Yeah, it made us laugh a little bit. You know, she was very determined to get those cookies from the vending machine. She would do anything. She was, you know, reaching in and crushing up against it. So that made us giggle a little bit because it was very comedic and made us laugh. Great. Okay, let's see. Esther, how did you feel when the woman met the other guy at the train station, the man who was listening to music? What were you thinking?
Uh, I I think it is interesting.
How come?
Esther, explain why.
Because uh, the boy he listening the music and the old woman shot him.
What did she do?
Shot him.
Oh, shot him.
Shout
Yeah,
at him.
shouted at him. Yes, yes. Raise your hand if you had thought at first that the boy was being mean or unkind. I'll raise my hand. When I first watched it, I said, oh, he's not being very nice to this woman. Raise your hand if that's how you felt or what you thought. So a few people raising their hands. Yeah. So you were thinking, oh my goodness, this poor woman. All she wants is to eat these cookies she worked so hard to get, even though it made us laugh maybe a little bit, but we know she worked so hard to get these treats. And now someone is giving her some trouble. Okay. So what did you think by the end of the story? So by the time we saw the resolution, Ray, what did you think by the end of the story, or how did you feel?
The end entertained me.
How come? Why?
Because the woman finally find her mistake and she hang on her smile on her face.
Yes, so I found it too a bit surprising, and you see this woman go, you can tell by her facial expressions, like you're saying, right, how she's feeling about the situation and how she's realized what happened. And it is very entertaining. You go, oh my goodness, I can't believe that's what happened, you know, and you can understand how she's feeling. All right, so next time we will take another look at this story called Snack Attack, and we will talk about the plot elements in it. So we will find the introduction, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution in Snack Attack. Okay? All right. Thank you all so much for coming today.
Okay, so if you guys scroll up, you will see a link to this presentation, and Bridget will also post it in our Google Classroom. So if you haven't joined us, please join us and find the link. And next time we will talk about the plot in the video, okay? All right, so everybody, please unmute your microphone and say thank you, Teacher Bridget.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
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 Teacher
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 Bridget.
Bridget.
We'll see you Thursday night your time, Friday morning our time. Okay?
Yes, yes. I'll see you all then. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a good
All
night.
right.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.